Hey there, folks, and welcome to the next 155 mile per hour Cup Tryouts. In this tryouts, I am doing the Jimny Sierra JC 2018 race car edition. Breaking news! I decided to transition and revamp the setups for now on, and from now on, as in, it just need to hit the speed of 125 on this very straight up brand hatch now. That's kind of all the tech we mentioned. This is for basically balance adjustment and everything else. Just on top of it. But that's all to mention. And also, yeah, that's the old vinyl of that. Old vinyl of it. I did change it though. So here's the parts and things you can do to the Jimny Sierra JC 2018, which I will say this car was a lot faster before the balance adjustment. Now with the new balance adjustment in mind, it is now hitting 250 horsepower, sitting on a 1.5 liter cc motor, and inline 4 cylinder with a K15B Jimny, which I'm gonna say I love this motor. This motor is freaking sick for the Jimny. I gotta say, this little romper of a motor is fucking sick. This is probably my favorite engine noise out of most of the inline 4s because how crazy this thing sounds like to me. Motors say, yeah, you can stick turbos. You can turn it into a turbocharger because I don't think by default it's a turbocharger, but if it is, then it is. Because I don't recall it being that, but then again, never know. So, anyways, onto the wide body, which yeah, I have a wide body to it, which I gave it that big old grooves to it. Because yeah, I will say this is a special part of the Sierra. It gives it big grooves, and you can stick a K24A Civic motor from the, I believe, the garage Civic. So. Now here's the rims that you could do, which is 15-inch normally, but you can also stick a wide offset to the base rims if you really want to at the end of the day. Okay, so now to the custom rims here, which the custom rims, you can dunk the living crap out of this Jimny if you really want to, which, now, and you can wide the width and offset with this vehicle, which, not gonna lie, maybe kind of should for this one. More to think about it. Because I will say, that's always been a customized thing. That I wasn't really locked to whatever the default gives. So you can widen it if you really want to, but I never really tried that, nor I don't know if it's a very great idea for the most part. It does give more, I would assume it gives more room and stuff to the car at the end of the day, but I will say you probably have to increase the suspension as a result of doing that. But yeah, you can basically change the pieces here, which I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I should have kept it with the standard part. The more I look at that, but it is what it is. The other one has a standard part, I will say. That's kind of the reason why I did that. But I just say you can add hood latches, or in this case hood pins. You can just is that the lights? I hope that was the lights, but yeah, roll cage. I didn't realize what the heck I was seeing there. Or maybe that's the front clip. Oh, tow hook. That was tow hook I saw. Okay, never mind. I'm stupid. Light bulbs. Change light bulbs. But yeah, I realized I put it on those ones. I should put it on those ones. Yeah, okay. Looks so much better. Okay, so yeah, I will say I haven't uploaded the design yet until after this upload. So every changes that I do to this is fine. And also, if you think it changes performance, no, it doesn't change performance. Or if it does, I really don't care if it changes that much at the end of the day. But I will say the one that did all the testing before this, though, is the one that was before that. So, I will say that. Other than that, here's basically the brake disc cover, which, yeah, I should have kept it with those greens. Those greens look nice. Holy crap. Now, for the tuning setup here, I basically increased the suspension, because yeah, this thing is a wiggly wobbly kind of mess, and it still kind of is, so be careful how to get even any chance of control in this car, because this thing will throw you around the ringer, so to say. And then for the engine tune-up, as you can see, it's really close to the 100%. So this is probably the best of performance you're gonna get out of this machine in terms of my regulation system and stuff. With the medium RPM instead of the low RPM because it was too low, as the joke goes. And yeah, full weight reductions of stage 3, and then the transmission here. Make sure to pause in case you want to copy that as the thing goes. It should be on par. And then that is technically everything else I did to it. And of course, still keeping with the racing hards. I thought about doing racing mediums, but the next one, the sports, I will do racing mediums. So just to say in advance. Here's the decal in case anyone wants that decal too. So make sure to look me up for that decal. So the Jimny Sierra JC, which yeah, here's the other fun problem. As you can see here, it's still using the old decal, and I'm not really sure at this point why it was using the older decal, but for some reason, when I saved that decal, it did not apply to this very decal, so I don't know why it did that, so just to say in advance. But the Jimny Sierra JC 2018 is a mighty little machine, I gotta say. It is a very fun little machine. Matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if someone turned around and did a cup race with this specific setup just for that kind of fun, because this thing is fun to be had. Machine. I will note though, as you can see throughout the turning aspect I can do with this machine, it turns very wobbly, so like a Jeep, be careful on how you basically steer at the end of the day, because my god does it want to absorb too much. I guess that's the best way to say it. I think it kind of absorbs a bit too much, so as a result it's a very bouncy machine when you brake. It almost feels like you're trying to do a stoppie, even though the Fiat does a stoppie. This doesn't do a stoppie. But jokes aside, the Jimny Sierra JC is a very fun machine to have. If I had to say for the turning though, the turning's probably kind of the worst. I'd say 6 out of 10 for the most part. It's a very wobbly machine, and I think I tried to adjust it as much as I can. For the most part. I hope I did, because at the end of the day, it's just a very spongy off-roader at the end of the day. Yeah, it's not a truck, it's an off-roader. And no, it's not an SUV, it's an off-roader. Off-roaders are technically the better SUV you should have, so to say. At the end of the day, because unlike an SUV where if you get T-boned and rolled, you ain't getting rolled by this. Unless it's a really heavy hit into that side, but then again, the Jimny Sierra is like one of the most, I think one of the most controversial vehicles back then, as in the Suzuki Samurai. I think it was called at one point, because yeah, Suzuki Samurai was mean to hell and back as one of the most machines that were capable to roll over, which wasn't true at all. If anything that rolled over was a Bronco or Explorer for that very instance, when they did the one test, so say the roll test, I should say, for short. I know it's called something specific, but I can't get it on my mind because I didn't ever really look that up for test. But I know it's that very test. But to say though, ever since that controversy, the Jimny has technically never been over here at all. Matter of fact, hasn't been here period, because due to the cafe laws, because the Jimny is technically a K car, as you can see with without the Sierra version one, or the other one's the one I did with the Swift motor, which I will say I will be redoing those episodes over time, but not right now and such. But yeah, the Jimny Sierra JC is a very fast little prominent machine and such, I will say. Okay, that means I gotta replace the whole time in general, because yeah, considering you can see the time here, it's in like a minute 8.4404, which is really good. But now we are on to the best lap, because as people may have not seen my tryouts in general, basically is I showcase you a couple laps just showing it around, and then I do the best lap. But yeah, look at that slide, man, that is delicious, good god. Because yeah, here's the best part about the Jimny, it can do power drifting. Which, if you don't know what power drifting means, basically if your car is an all-wheel drive, and if you slam the brakes hard enough where the vehicle feels like it's doing a stoppie, and then just turn in, you get what is called a power drift, which a power drift is very satisfying. The Impreza does it. The Lancer, sadly, I don't think it kind of does. It's kind of difficult a little bit. But the Jimny Sierra is one of those cases you can do that, and the Jeep too. The Jeep can do that if you have enough horsepower in that vehicle. So very fun and satisfying that you can do. Now vehicles can't really do it, however, but some end up doing it at the end of the day. And we hit a minute 8.367 for the first of the times, because yeah, this also means I'm redoing the times and such. But yeah, in terms of issues, because yeah, we were at the balance track, because I will try to mention the turning issues and then the speed here. But as of issues and stuff, though, is definitely the wobbliness. The wobbliness is like really bad for the most part for this vehicle. So be careful how you pinpoint the steer, because sometimes it will overpoint you in return as a result. Which I forgot to mention this earlier for Iger Nordland too, is the acceleration stats, which I gotta say 113 miles per hour. I would say that it's about maybe 7 out of 10 for the most part. That sounds like the most decent number, because I'm just gonna say that's probably gonna be punched a little bit higher as a result of the balancing and such. But for now, I'm gonna set that at 7 out of 10 for that matter. Now, the other big thing to mention is, of course, the burn stats. And you're probably wondering, what's the burn stats overall when it comes to 8 laps of Iger Nordland on a 9 times tire burn and a 12 times fuel burn. And all I got to say is that it's not really that great, as it hits only a fourth of the front tires on Iger Nordland, and then it hits about 2/3 of fuel, so it's actually not the greatest on that part, I would say. In regard, that would probably be like a 7 out of 10 for the tire burn, because 1 out of 4, or a 4th tire burn is actually not bad for this vehicle's case compared to Grade 4 cars. Grade 4 cars, they burn like no tomorrow, but for this one, not so bad. On the fuel side though, that's where it hits kind of the hardest to say. If it was actually a racer raid kind of vehicle, then it'd be much higher, because then I have a regulated fuel tank. That is the one thing to keep note about Grade 4s, is that they have a regulated fuel tank and such. So to re-say again, 2/3 of fuel tank is kind of bad. I would say kind of like 5 out of 10 for the most part. That's kind of okay-ish, but in the if you're doing a long race as this might start getting affected eventually as a result. So the Jimny Sierra JC is overall, I would say, in terms of a endurance racer, I would say maybe what's the best way to say it? As a sprint, I would say definitely an A. This thing is pretty quick on the dime on getting there at the end of the day, but as endurance, I would say a B for that matter. Well, overall, I just kind of I think a B plus for the most part. This is very great, but this is not the craziest I've seen so far. Considering especially when we got back to the Scirocco, because just to say, I had to up the horsepower on that. Because yeah, even as quick as that Volkswagen Scirocco is, it still had to go up. So that's a laugh out loud if I ever seen one for the most part. So yeah, so now on to the best lap here, as we hit like a minute 32.270 so far, so yeah, not bad. But yeah, in case you're wondering how I do the laps, or how I handle the laps for each of the tracks, I basically showcase the first 3 laps on the short track, because it's a short track, so you might as well just showcase like 3 laps around that. While 2 laps around a medium-sized track like this, and then 1 lap once we get to the finale, which is the speed track. Which, I will say, the track that is for the speed now is changed. Because I decided to go for 2 minutes higher for the speed track. That way I can test the raw speed potential of the vehicle, even though it feels like I'm just kind of just on a daily cruise for the most part. I'm not going to lie when I do that. Yeah, let's see how fast the Jimny Sierra JC goes around. Which, yeah, a minute 32 is not technically that bad. That's actually pretty good for the most part. Let me see my phone for times. Because, yeah, while I am going to still kind of sort of base the times off of that, I technically really also shouldn't because those are now the old times. So, yeah, those times are going to get scrapped eventually. But for a good example where it sits at, though, in a minute 32.6, it is. Let's see. It is being the Honda M1. That's at a minute 32.881, and that's a 2 and 4, by the way. You know, I put 2 plus 4 because I think that was back then when I was thinking it was a plus, not in. Yeah, so now onto the new speed course, which is technically the same, really. It's just the opposite layout now. It's the counterclockwise layout of south, Tokyo Expressway South. So we are going to race at the docks, basically, because that's the one cool part about the counterclockwise, is that the counterclockwise takes you to the docks, while the regular clockwise takes you to that chicane right there that I was just right next to, matter of fact. Because yeah, both of these tracks are basically sitting next to each other at the end of the day. They just have a sort of different layout, and I love it because that tells me that this is not a reverse of the track. This is a whole different track, technically. So yeah, that's the fun part when people look at these tracks sometimes and think that they're straight up the same. They are not. The south counterclockwise is completely different to the south clockwise. And it's really hard to say that, I will say. So yeah, it's a cool part. And also you get to see the indoor chicane, or not indoor chicane, but the indoor wrap turn there. Or swing? I would say swing turn? Yeah. And then we go down through this. Well, yeah, we're going downhill, so we're technically going faster than normally going up the hill of that. Because, yeah, we're technically going up the hill and down the hill when we go through this tunnel. Like, I do love that tunnel section. That's why I do these cars on this very tunnel at the end of it. Yeah. And I will say, Cups are not going to be doing this track. I will say I think sports cars are also going to be doing this track as well, because by in terms they're kind of sitting on par a little bit to each other, but I will still use the regular clockwise layout for the speed test, because I do speed tests for sports on the other clockwise than this one. Than the counterclockwise. The counterclockwise is nice, but I do prefer the regular clockwise for the speed test wise, and also technically quicker. It does a minute 45 for this. This does 2 minutes and 13. Yeah, I will say this might be in plan for use for GT3 in the far future when I ever get there. So yeah, that is where the Jimny Sierra hits though, 2 minutes and 14.324. So I have nothing to compare as of right now. But if I have anything to say, no doubt that's probably a good time. I would think. Then now to 14.073 from the previous lap, because the previous lap was pulling pretty good too. Let's see if I can break that 2 minutes and 14. Yeah, 2 minutes and 14 with the Jimny Sierra. Come on, baby, let's do it. This thing goes. The only problem I can think of for the Sierra, no doubt the top speed's not gonna be that crazy. So yeah, it's in like around 140 and it's kind of just staying there. For the most part, which I'm not surprised, because I will say the transmission's gears, which is another thing I mentioned, if the gears were tight or not, and hopefully I keep into that when I talk about it, because I might as well talk about everything statistic about the car, and that is the gears. The transmission overall was a very tight, and it's very tight due to the fact the Air the Max setup of this vehicle, because Air the Max is kind of durable. I will say it's probably as aerodynamic as a G-Wagon. Or you know, an old Bronco. But yeah, it's a boxy style. What do you think boxy styles are going to be? Very aerodynamic? Oh, heck no. You wish they were. No, they need a bit of egg shape to get the most aerodynamics at the end of the day. You know, they still suck. That's the best part. If you want to know a funny joke. Yeah, in 140 though on the straightaway before going into the hard turn here, because yeah, they did kept the hard turn for this, because I will say south counterclockwise and clockwise blends in because I think I'm going to what is now the reverse portion of regular clockwise here, although it's kind of weird because now I see a split over there, so maybe not. It's kind of weird. Kind of weird to judge that, you know, the more I have to look at that, because no, yeah, you know what? It's not. It's like a sort of reverse portion, or not. What it feels like. So this turn is a lot rougher than the other turn on the other side. The other side is a lot longer, because yeah, you'll be on that whole left side on the regular south clockwise. But yeah, that's basically it for the Jimny Sierra JC in terms of best times. In 2 minutes, 13.928. So we've broken the 2:14 threshold. Let's see who else can break the 2:13 threshold next time. Now, here's the things it can do, which yeah, I can do Sunday Cup, just blast through all that at the end of the day. It can do the Japanese Clubman Cup, as soon as I ever get down there, because I'm looking around like seeing like what other events can do. Because I'm trying to make sure to showcase everything it can do for now. But yeah, you can do the 4-wheel drive challenge, because it's a 4-wheel drive. So that means you can take it to the snow. I will say it might be very tough though, because its speed's not the greatest. But I think it's doable. The Japanese Clubman Cup 500. Race of turbo sports cars. But yeah, you can definitely do that with the racing hard tires, or just slap on race medium tires. Because I'm not going to stop you if you turn around and just slap the higher up ones. Because on that. And then World Touring 600. I think it's doable on some of the tracks, but I would not suggest the speed ones. Like Spa Francorchamps, maybe not that one. And then I'm debating to even mention about the Clubman Cup Plus, because I should mention about that, because technically there is probably, you could probably do the, if I looked at it, I hope I looked at it. It was the Tsukuba circuit, and the Tsukuba one is very difficult, I will say. But if you slap on sports mediums, I believe, it will lower itself just enough for it to do that. So I think it's doable. I have to hard test to make sure. You can also, oh wait, no, I can't do the lightweight cable, I'm insane. Because this is technically not a K car. It's like sort of is, sort of not. Motor-wise, it's not, but body-wise, it kind of is. Even though it's a little bit bigger. Because yeah, that's the other thing about the Sierra. If you compare the Sierra to the regular, is that. And yeah, I can do all the events do other events from the tournament, like the high-speed ring, the Tokyo Parade, Asia Oceania tournament. And then the World Touring 600 might be doable. But yeah, here we off to the races here at the Blue Moon Speedway, because I was kind of curious, does the lights turn on this track? Spoiler warning, they don't. I don't know why, they just don't. They do not turn on, and also how glitchy this is. I guess I should kind of mention that. Yeah, Gran Turismo needs to really rework this track, because I gotta say, seeing that camera all glitchy, seeing the lights not turning on, tells me that this track has been here since sport. And they haven't really done nothing with it thus far. Which is very weird, because, reminder, this is a speedway track. This is like a NASCAR, you know, heck, it's in, I think it's in, no, it might be in Japan, actually. Might be in Japan or America for this track, but just to say in advance, this track should have its lights on during night, but you're about to see here, they don't at all. But yeah, I got some interesting contenders here, because with the balancing stuff, I might not be going against very stronger opponents in the future, but I'm going to get some very forthright opponents instead. That is like the Ford GT40 Mark 1 of all things. Like, okay, that's a big boy. This thing goes. Definitely outspeeding me on the streets. This thing goes. But then again, majority of these cars are definitely gone too, because there you got high ends like the Galador, LP564 behind me. There you got the 959, the Bill Gates Special. This one goes. The RE Amamiya, FD3S or FD35. It's one of two. And then you got a supercar like the Carrera GT 2004. Holy moly, that thing goes. And then you got the Audi R8 Coupe B10, which, oh my. Then again, the biggest problem about the Galador and the Audi well, they're like somewhat the same, somewhat not. But let's just say that V10 is a very hungry machine. And not only that, they're midweight, so that's definitely gonna be a big effect. Big effect on that as the thing goes. While something like a Tuscan Speed is a midlight, I would say. A GT40 is a midlight. And then you got the 911 Turbo S Lechball. Hopefully I said that right, the Lechball. Which basically means lightweight, in case you're wondering. Because that's basically their $3 million lightweight 911 that has windows that are very existing in that car at the end of the day. You get the Amuse Nismo, the Z Performance, Nissan Z Performance, so high-end sports. Yeah, the Muse, which yeah, that's kind of funny. You've seen the Muse Nismo and then the Z Performance, so it kind of makes you wonder which one's going to be better, the 380 RS or the Z Performance. There, if they said that right. Nismo 400R, there's a classic. You got another Z Performance. Yeah, we got two of those. And then Kutar's 25th anniversary, which yeah, he's probably just gonna be sitting in the back for a majority in this race because yeah, he's definitely an aged supercar. Probably even more. Because it's gonna be fun when I deal with the term of supercar because that's gonna be thrown all around about. So I gotta figure out what's the good way to really say at the end of the day when it comes to that. When it comes to Kutar. And then we got the Garage RCR Civic. Oh, I said it right, okay. I didn't say it wrong. Was it CRC or RCR? It's RCR. Yeah, a lot of fun getting candidates in the back there. Now onto the BMW M3 2007. Oh yeah, and then the Challenger SRT, which, yeah, buy, because yeah, I will say, while these cars are fast and all, reminder that we are underneath the 9 times fuel and 12 times tire rule, which that's going to affect these cars over time, big time. Unless you're a mid-light, which is like somewhat to that. But if you're a real light car though, then you're fine. I mean, you're totally fine. This tells you how much of a detriment is weight can be in a factor throughout this race. That's what's kind of going to tell you. Right, what's kind of just the real contenders when it comes to these very kind of races that, you know, you got the Aventator LP 740, I think it's like 740 or something like that, or 720, maybe 720. And then you got the Porsche Carrera GT once again. Okay, they're all just been like bye. Anyways, yeah, you'd think they were tough contenders, no. No, not really. And even the McLaren 650S went in as well, so if there's like any real contender, I'll say, which I'm kind of surprised about this, the Gallador LP, which, reminder, like I said, the Audi QV10, which, although then again, the V10 might be based off the Hurricane instead, and the Hurricane's even more power hungry. Because yeah, if you want to know the difference between the Hurricane and Gallador, while the Gallador is slower, the Hurricane is faster, but it trades in for more of that power-hungry heat at the end, right? Yeah, so not technically the greatest, but I would say, if I have anything to say though, I think the Hurricane is technically more refined. It's not a really great refine, I would say a good refine in some areas, while it seems it's more power-hungry, so the next time they make another Hurricane, which they already did, which is it's the Temerario, which that's apparently gonna be a V8 or something like that. Cause yeah, they're trying to phase out the V10s at the end of the day, because at this point V10s are just so difficult to build and such. So the Temerario, although I think it's still a V10, the weird part, is gonna replace that. Which I'm kind of curious what's in store for that mini Lambo at the end of the day. But now on to the other halfway of the portion, because yeah, as the saying goes, if you don't know, when I do these race portions, I'm only going to be showing the first little bit of the race, and then the rest of the race at the end. So yeah, we went from sunset to nighttime, which, not gonna lie, that's actually a perfect transition, so good thing I did it like that. But yeah, as you can see though, no lights, so we're just in the dead of the night. driving on this speedway course, which does not feel right in the slightest mind. These lights should be on by now, and they're not. So yeah, so that really sucks for this track, because I do like this track, because I think, like Daytona infield, this track is very confined with the infield. I do kind of like this track just a bit more for its infield design, I will say, in advance. Just a tad bit more. Daytona is still going to be the bigger hit though, but I will say, for if you want more compacted version of Daytona infield, this is the track of that answer. It's just the problem of that answer is that it's a very degraded answer though, because there are no lights. I'll just say the Daytona one does, because it's Daytona. How the heck would you not have lights? But for some reason the Blue Moon one doesn't have any lights though. But as you can see over the course of what kind of opponents we're dealing with at this point, which I say opponents loosely, I basically just got this in the bag. The GT40 Mark 1's like the only one that's holding the line against me at the end of the day, from like 30 seconds away, I believe, from the last time I checked and such. And then you got the Aventator at 6, but he's definitely gonna go back in. He's chugging fuel like no tomorrow. He's a big boy, big old V12 as the thing goes. Which I say that loosely, because reminders is also the Coutage, but the reason why the Coutage ain't up here, I think, is because his tires are bad, because he's putting a couple of sauce. But then again, so is the Ford GT40, so, you know, so that's not the greatest excuse, but that's a bit of an excuse for that. Then you got the 911 Turbo S Fletch Bond at 9th right now. Yeah, the GT40 just went back in, matter of fact, so right now, in terms of the high contenders of taking that second place and third place, is the Carrera GT and the R8 Coupe. I'm just gonna say though, not to dust your hopes, I don't think they're gonna hold that for very long. Because reminder, it's the Carrera GT and the Audi R8 Coupe V10. They're fast, but they're gonna be chugging as a result. And there's the Nismo 400R passing me right now. But yeah, here's a funny moment. And as I go off to the side, because here's a big problem about this track. If you're hanging on that upper side, you will bounce off really freaking hard in that suspension. So be careful if you're a tiny little K car or you have a spongy suspension, because that's what's about to happen to you at the end of the day, I'll just say. Because yeah, I should have slowed down more than I should, because when you're on the higher up on that bank, because you hit a bank drop off, and as a vehicle like this, be careful as everything goes. But yeah, if I have any real contenders in terms of this race, I would say that Tuscan Speed 6 would be one. The REM would definitely be sure be one. Because a lot of people say that RX-7 is just a sports car. No, it's technically a supercar as long as you punch it right. But the RX-8 kind of ruined that direction. Because I do consider the RX-8 a massive downgrade compared to the RX-7. Not just by the motor, but by the aerodynamics that was given to that car. Because I will say the RX-7 is a lot more lighter and a lot more steering and a lot more speed going on. I'm not saying this as a biased excuse. I'm just saying it as, in terms of knowledge I know of for about that. So. And I don't want to say I'm 100% right, but in terms of, if I had to say, I would say at most I would think at 80% from that. I mean, there's a possibility in a world where RX-8 is technically a little bit better than RX-7, but as of where it stands, I find the RX-7 a lot more speed defined, I would say. And that's a weird way to say that too. For a 2-rotor motor. Which is kind of weird, because they're trying to make the RX Vision, but the thing is they're trying to slap like 4 rotors together, which I'm not gonna lie, that doesn't sound like a great thing to do. Yeah, we're getting ever closer to getting to the ends of this race though. We got like 2 more laps at this point. Technically like 1 lap, because I think Zero's already around. So we got the GT40 going at 4th, we got the McLaren 650S, which I'm not surprised, that 650S has a special thing, I'll say, sometimes it feels like. It's kind of special in my book. Got the Carrera GT 2004 in 6th. With the R8 Coupe in 7th, the Guard in 8th, the REM Mia in 9th, Amateur in 10th. The Garage RCR Civic, which I'm surprised how well it's keeping up in regards. I figured we'd send it back because it's not really that fast, but it's okay for what it sits. And when you compare a, well, I want to say technically a time attack. Technically a time attack to a supercar, there's a magnitude of a difference there. And considering I have the RCR giving chase on me throughout. Yeah, they are boosted to hell and back right now on the speed. So as a result, the Garage Civic is keeping up with me as a result. In fact, he was passing me for a good minute there, and I passed him back in return. Such as. Now in the last round out here, and looks like the Tuscan's taking the second for sure at this point. Got the Carrera hitting 3rd, while the GT4 hitting 4th, and then the 911 Lechbahn hitting 5th. The R8 Coupe hitting 6th right now. 650S on 7th, and then the Gaurador at 8th. So yeah, so that's high contenders for this race in general. Not surprised, because I'm just gonna say, if you're a mid-light, you're basically set for life for the most part. Even I will say the Carrera GT is also mid-light to me. Yeah, it's a beautiful mid-light too. So that basically ends that for this race. So tune in next time when I do the Corvette C7 for next tryouts. So until then, people, I'll see you guys on next time. You guys take care, and I hope you enjoyed this new revamp style. Hopefully it helps the balancing between the speed and acceleration just a tad. So until then, you guys take care and ciao. Thanks for watching and such.